Welcome back, everybody, to Beyond the Box Spotlight. Super excited about today's show. I'm joined with Dan Belostotsky from HonestDoor, and really excited to sort of hear, what HonestDoor has been up to and what's been going on. So, Dan, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Mike.
So, before we dive into it, Dan, for the people that don't know HonestDoor, real quick, what is HonestDoor and where are you guys operating? What are you guys up to?
Sure. HonestDoor is a site that's kind of like an expose for real estate. We kind of created it originally for the consumer in mind, and the whole goal was you go to a website and you don't need a password, you don't need to pay, you don't need to call anyone. You just go and research a property. It could be a residential property, it could be a commercial property, and we will try to populate it with as much information as we can. So anything from sold price to assessed price to, the square footage, the taxes, when it was last built or year built, any permits that we could find on the property. And then with all that data, we in turn put it into our own modeling system that spits out an HonestDoor price, which is our own internal algorithm on what we think your home's worth today.
Got it. Okay. Very, very cool. So, there's lots for us to dive in there, and I'm happy to kind of go there. But before we do it, I guess the question I always like to ask is, how did you start HonestDoor? Like, are you from real estate side of things, and how did you start HonestDoor? And I guess when did you start HonestDoor?
Sure. We started HonestDoor. We raised money last March and probably started working on it about a year before that. And yeah, I'm not from real estate. Originally, I went to university here in Edmonton and started a company out of school that was eventually acquired by a company out east. It was a big national company. And then with the proceeds of that sale, invested into real estate just because I also didn't know what else to invest in. And learned a lot about real estate in that process, bought a lot of stuff, sold a lot of stuff, still holding some stuff. And just kind of realized that, yeah, I didn't really know what I was doing. And certainly perhaps the people that were helping me knew something, but I just thought it was weird that, hey, for example, an agent would know so much more than me, when maybe I have more time and I care about my own asset more than they do. And so I just wanted to get a little bit more information out there to the people, because I felt like, I didn't have enough information. So I just thought it was strange that some people had it and some people didn't.
Yeah, and that's, I think, super interesting because I think, historically there has been a lot of talk around that being the value, is that it's access to the information. Whereas I think what we've been shown time and time again, that it's not just the access to the information where the value is, it's really the synthesis in that conversation. And I think that, what we've seen is there's lots of people like yourself, and I would consider myself similar, where, we want to go out and get the information, but we also want to have that conversation with the professional. But at the same time, there's a lot of people that are also just, I'm too busy for this. I want somebody to sort of take care of it. And so I think what you guys are doing is you're being able to provide a really great service for people to go and access that information as part of that much broader picture. And, I've had countless agents tell me that, they utilize a lot of the data that you guys have provided, for helping them sculpt a lot of the conversation. So it's interesting to see how that journey started originally with the consumer, but now you really have all the stakeholders in the ecosystem looking to, utilize your platform from the data side. So I think so to me, it's a cool journey to have watched.
And I agree. And I think the consumers wanted options, but now what we're seeing is we have mortgage brokers, insurance brokers, real estate agents, developers, everyone kind of using our platform. And I think what attracts people to the platform, why it's been successful, is just because it's this unbiased, non-pushy, here, take a look for as long as you want, and that's it. And so I think that really gives people perspective that, it's this free, safe place to view anything they want.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And so with that, what I'd love to do is change gears a little bit. Is you've got a product, you've got a company on the market. Rewind 12 months ago. Everybody's kind of doing things a certain way. I'm curious, from your perspective, how has the pandemic and the push towards digital and the virtualization of things, how have you seen that impact roll out in your business, if at all?
What's funny is we raised money last March to really, accelerate this to the next level, and the pandemic hit in March. So I don't know if we're experts in looking at, hey, where were we before and after, because we literally, really started accelerating right through the pandemic. I think what we did see from just a real estate perspective in March is that our traffic fell. March, April, May, seemed like no one, there were bigger issues out there in the world than, figuring out what the price of real estate is. And then we got a little bit worried, but obviously tried to justify it as, oh, this is just the pandemic, it'll blow over. And then we saw like explosive growth on the site, and I think you'll see a lot of other consumer websites show the same thing. And then we can actually obviously see what people are searching for too. So we saw a lot in single family homes. So it really showed us, like, everything that our data showed us was that people started wanting to get out of it originally. So I feel like the pandemic's changed a bit, and I'm not going to claim to be an economist, but from our data, it looked in Alberta and Western Canada, it looked that people were trying to look at single family homes a lot more than they were before. So just like, a reasonable person would think that
Surmise, yeah.
they needed a backyard, they wanted more space, they were inside with their spouses or whoever, and maybe with their kids, and they were just looking for more space. So the suburbs really got an uptick, and I think that, chatting with all our builder friends and looking through the data, I think the suburbs really, a lot more homes in the suburbs were selling before. It was really cool to be inner city before, and it got a little bit less cool during the pandemic.
Well, for somebody who is still an inner city advocate, I can attest that I have a lot of friends that definitely made that search. But I think the interesting thing that you guys have is that because you're not focused on the listing side and it's all property, you truly are a pseudo top of funnel indicator in a sense of people's intent, where people aren't even looking for what's available in the suburbs. It's more of, I'm looking at what exists, or what are the possibilities, which to me is a really powerful insight that could then further drive and refine different conversations, once you get further down towards, okay, looking at listing, looking at buying. And I think that's a really, I think corroborates what a lot of people were speaking to about this exodus to the suburbs, or the exurbs, or whatever you want to call it, with the work from home. But you guys have a front seat. And I mean, that's powerful information for, as you said, builders, realtors, consumers, sort of all people in between, and really doing it in a different way that's been done before, which I think is a really, really cool testament. So taking it a step forward. So now we're post-pandemic, and you're in a select number of markets. What is sort of, given what you've learned, has it changed where you guys want to go in, say, the next 12 months with your vision?
Well, I think what we've learned is consumers are becoming more and more engaged. I think we're approaching about 100,000 visits to our site per month, which we think is great. I mean, 100,000 visits is, no advertising, no photographs, no listings. So the fact that we're just, spewing out numbers, and that many people are coming to our site, and they're intentionally coming because they're not getting funneled in from anywhere else, we think that's a pretty powerful stat. So we just want to really make sure, as consumer behavior changes. I mean, everyone used the internet before, they're using it way more now, and they have way more time, right? Their work schedule is a little more flexible. They have time to research where they want to live a little bit more. And now they really care. It was almost like people were too busy to care. You always had that like leaky pipe. I don't know, maybe that's a bad example, or something that you didn't like about your house, and you just didn't really care to fix it. But now that you're home so much more, you realize, oh man, I should really fix this stuff, or maybe I should go renovate my basement, or maybe we should just move altogether. Like, this is such a great time to do it. So I think we still want to maintain to be the site that people go to first. And real estate's become so popular over the years. There's a lot of Netflix shows and cable shows all about real estate. So people have become almost a little bit obsessed with real estate, whether they own it or not, or maybe they want to one day own a piece of real estate on the beach. But this is all kind of played into it. So the fact that you could just, be bored and be like, oh, what's the nicest neighborhood that I could think of? And then be able to research, oh, look at what homes are selling for, or here's what they think my home's worth, or, my friend Nancy, what's going on her street. So I feel like people have so much, they're interacting with our site well before they think of moving. And that's what we really want to maintain. We want to maintain, more data, more interesting data, cool insights for people, fastest growing neighborhoods, how we think your HonestDoor price is going to keep moving forward, or is it going to be stable at some point? So we're putting a lot of work into that to make sure people are coming here first before they decide on anything.
Well, when we say people in general, I think, a lot of the stories that I've heard is how realtors can now use this from their perspective to really I guess, layer on to their conversations, whether it be at their listing presentation or whatnot, is another tool in the toolkit. And, the thing that I think we've learned here in the late 2000s, 2010s and beyond is that the consumers' demand for information is only going to increase. And so, from the professional's perspective, the more information I can have myself to be able to synthesize that whole picture for the consumer, the better. And, I guess the question I'd pose to you is, from your conversations with realtors and professionals, how have you seen them using your tool to engage their consumers differently, if at all? I'd be really curious on any conversation you've had there.
I think that, yeah, like realtors are definitely users of our platform. And I mean, we're just an information site at this point. So, yeah, so I do think it's for everybody. I mean, how have realtors, say that again, maybe, Mike?
Yeah. So I'd be curious. So just to give you an example,
Sure.
I know some realtors that will use HonestDoor to, for example, look at some trends
Yeah.
some more micro level trends, as opposed to
Yeah.
just, look at the macro level trends. And, it's just part of their full information suite, and not saying one's definitive or one's the other. It's just, these are some pieces that I'm going to bring to the table now when I'm talking with my consumer. And I see, it only getting broader as you roll out and enhance and add more data to the platform. Because to me, there's that, I think like Google Finance, right? I can go on and I can look at a stock price. Does it mean that I'm a stockbroker? Does it mean that I'm a wealth manager? No, but I have the information and I can see the trends and I can see the trades and all this information, right?
Mhm.
But there's still that ratchet up beyond it, which I think, where the real estate industry is seeing is there's all these different pieces that they can now put on the table, right? And, I've heard anecdotal stories from realtors here locally in my area saying, I definitely use HonestDoor as part of, my fact-finding mission when I'm going to go speak with the consumer with certain regards.
Right. Yeah, you never want, I mean, if the consumer knows way more than the agent, that's also not ideal. So it's a great way for agents to become, as knowledgeable as they can be, because maybe their MLS data that they have, they either didn't have time to go through it, and ours is a lot easier to go through, or we have something that they didn't.
For sure.
So yeah, I would definitely recommend, if you're selling a house, you should go on our site and you should research that street and see what other information we have. And it's about to get more robust, and I'll kind of talk about that. But yeah, we see everyone using it, and I think it would be foolish if consumers are using it so much that the agents wouldn't be using it, because they're going to come and say, "Hey, look, I found a permit for the basement," or something like that. So I think that, in hopes that everyone's on an even playing field, I definitely think they should use it.
Yeah, fair enough. And you looked at other areas around the world, and lots of different elements have been at play like this. And it's just it's almost a democratization
Yeah.
of information across all facets of industries. And if anything, it pays to be aware and how you can implement it. So changing gears a little bit. So you just mentioned it. Speaking of the robustness, so going into 2021, we've got a lot of things to be optimistic for, a lot of things to be excited for, a lot of things to be sort of cautious for. So from your perspective, from the company, the product, what are the things that you're most excited for as you're going into 2021?
I guess, and just to kind of go back one question, Mike, is the reason why realtors should use this site is I think that people are home that much more. And so given that they're flexible allows them, usually they'd be going to a showing straight from work. They didn't know anything. They were in a panic. And now that they have the time and they're sitting at home, I think that, that kind of just ups the game that much more for the realtors, that, hey, we should check out every resource we can. And hopefully HonestDoor is one of them, to prepare themselves to talk to their clients.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think that's super, super important to bring up. So I'm glad you took us back there.
yeah, no worries. So for 2021, I mean, some things that we're working on, we're going to start to, we're going to start to expand a little bit faster than we have been. We're creating an internal thing that's probably boring to talk about, but anyway, it'll allow us to expand that much faster. But what we're also seeing is we're trying to get as creative as we can with the data, because we always need to have an edge. I mean, MLS data is out there, whether it becomes super public or not, remains to be unknown. But our access to different data sets is going to be key. We're working on a couple of different partnerships, working on, getting some more rental data to market. We're working to get some Airbnb data to market, and then anything else that we think has become more important through COVID. mean, there's a couple things that I'm passionate about, but I don't know how we'll tackle them yet. I'd love to everyone's radon testing in their home. I
Yeah,
think
that's a good one.
a popular one, but anything that we could do. And one thing we are getting now is a lot of user submitted data,
Mm.
which is pretty interesting. A lot of people, it's almost like since we were started from this grassroots movement on like, hey, we're sharing with you, now help us, uh, help everyone in some ways. And so people are now, hundreds of people have now submitted their homes and submitted pictures, submitted receipts, submitted, their tax records, all this information that you think is so near and dear to a consumer's heart. They've trusted us with that, and they want some of that information to be released to all people in their neighborhood, or they might, even say there's a loud dog barking next door. Any information that will maybe affect their on a store price or will help other people in their home buying journey, I think is pretty interesting. So I think, for us to be able to create our own internal unique data set is going to be key.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that to me is something that's always been so exciting to me about what you are doing is your ability to get all these different unique data sets in so many different ways, and doing it in a way that, is outside of the normal catchment of the industry, but yet it delivers such an enhanced value to the industry, the way that it's moving forward. So that is really, really exciting. So then, just to sort of round things out, as we're going into 2021, what are the things that you're sort of just watching a little bit cautiously as well, from whether it be a business perspective or product perspective, going forward? Because again, obviously there's lots of uncertainty right now.
Yeah. Um, Our team is pretty lean. I mean, when we raised money, we didn't raise that much. I think we really wanted to hit some milestones and really go for a big raise at some point here in 2021, which we'll probably do. So I feel like we've been moving pretty cautiously. We didn't want to, blow all our cash, and I think we're still, well positioned and well financed to make it through this thing. With any business, you never know how COVID's going to go and how it'll change things or not. Right now, like everyone's feeling really optimistic, and I hope that it is.
Hopefully it holds.
Yeah. But I mean, you never know what can happen, right? I don't think people should be like, "Hey, we're out of this thing by March. Let's go blow our money and something will happen." I think that it's still very much unknown on how it'll affect the economy, and I think it's still very much unknown, how this vaccine will roll out. Will people go back to normal? Who will get the vaccine? I think there's so many unanswered questions on how it'll affect your business. So I would recommend everyone to still tread carefully, because we don't know the way, what's going to happen. So that's kind of our thing, is we're still treading pretty carefully, though I think that our numbers are starting to grow, and, more and more data collection that we're going to get to market. Right now we're kind of building the pipeline. So we've got the oil, we just got to get it to market. And so, we're pretty happy, I guess, where we're sitting. I mean, there's a lot of things that we're going to be working on. We're trying to, reach agreements to get more listings on our site. We want to, work with the real estate boards and get their listings up on our site and just kind of be an enhancement tool. So there's a lot of things we're working on internally. What else? What did you say, Mike?
I think that's it, to be honest. I mean, to me, it's just, there's a lot of things going on, and I think you covered most of them. I don't think we need to belabor it, but, I'm excited for what you guys put up next and what bring next. And so before we close this out, Dan, for those people that, want to learn more about HonestDoor, what's the best way to find out? Like, where do they go?
Yeah, I think they go to honestdoor.com, and the best way to do it is just check it out for yourself. I mean, put in an address that you know, or use the map and find an area that you like. If you don't know the address, you can pull it up on your phone too, and it has your current location. You can do it on desktop too. But yeah, that's the best way to do it, and then really see, hey, look, this is what they show. I mean, our product's pretty good here in Alberta, and right now we're kind of slowly and silently, I don't know how silent it is, but we're working on other parts of the country. And so we're kind of testing it out in BC, we're testing it out in Winnipeg, in Saskatchewan, and part of the East. And then as soon as we kind of fully build out our pipeline, I think that part is going to really accelerate for us. So
yeah, and I was going to say, and for the industry partners, learning about HonestDoor for the first time or hearing about them, you're active on LinkedIn. So I imagine if connected on LinkedIn, they could connect to learn more about what you're hoping to achieve and what you could bring of value to the different regions across the nation. Is that correct?
Yeah, LinkedIn's great. Yeah, we've got social media. We've got a good social media person now helping us out.
Awesome.
So yeah, I think for us though, please check out HonestDoor. And I think for us is we really want to be kind of the number one place for Canadian real estate here in 2021.
Awesome. Well, with that, Dan, thanks so much for your time. And yeah, I look forward to seeing what 2021 brings. All the
Right.
best.
Thanks, Mike.